I'm an MCT, and I have other MCTs here also in the call. And then we have the captains and we have the mentors who are also going to be contributing to this topic today. Topic today is very critical because I told you guys that optimization is a very big topic in Power BI because and it cuts across every single operation, every single thing that you do in Power BI. Even the way the way you integrated the data to Power BI, the way you manage your storage, the way you optimize your queries, everything you do, even up to your model, even up to writing DAX. There are some DAX that are well optimized than some others. So all of these things we are going to break it down. But just know that optimization is a very wide topic and it cuts across a lot of things. And there are different ways, right? One can optimize. There's no single one way to it. There are different ways. And there are basic ways of optimization, there are intermediate ways of optimization, and there are advanced ways of optimization in Power BI. Please, if you have questions, don't wait till I finish the class. Just do that raise hand button ASAP so I can stop what I'm saying and attend to you. Okay. Now, what is query folding? Query folding is a powerful feature in Power Query that pushes data transformation back to data source. Forget the English that I put here. Let me break it down in a very simple way. Forget the grammar, the query folding. What does it even mean? I know some of the agbas here, they've heard about it before. They are not new to these things, right? But probably maybe you just import data into Power Query. You might not even know how all of these things works, right? And probably you only deal with flat files. Anytime you work on project, it's always flat file, flat file, flat file. Because to be truthful, right, it's not all organizations that actually give their data analysts access to their databases for you to be querying. They will expect that maybe there will be somebody, maybe a DBA or something. I'm not generalizing to, I'm saying some organizations, right? Maybe there's a DBA somewhere, or there's one DE guy that is always the one helping you to pull the data, right? Pull the data and send it to you as a flat file. Then you connect that to your Power BI to build your reports, right? So you might not know about query folding. It's not a matter of all of us are learning, we are improving, right? And the reason why this topic is very important is because if you have the knowledge about query folding, it improves the performance of your reports and even the performance of the data that is transferred to Power BI. Right. So in simple terms, what query folding means is that all those transformation steps that you do in your Power Query, you filter something, you remove duplicates, you remove error. What again do you guys do? Group by anything you do in your Power Query, you add a new column, all those things, right? Imagine that instead of the Power Query engine being the one to process those transformation steps, right? Now imagine that your SQL server, which is your data source, is now the one processing that transformation. It's going to make the data transfer, it's going to make your queries to be more optimized because you are not giving the job to Power Query Engine to be the one to do. The job is being done by the underlying source, which is probably most times your SQL server, right? Now, this your source SQL server is the one that is processing those transformation steps, right? Now, the more you push back those transformations to your source, the more optimize your queries, right? Now, let's take a very good example. I connect to a server, I connect to a database, and I connect to a table inside the database. Now, I apply steps that the source understands, that the data source can process, right? Now, it's going to make my queries to be optimized. When I click on refresh, I'm going to get the data updates as fast as possible, rather than if they are not well optimized, if the queries are not folding. So the word folding means you are pushing back the processing of those transformations back to the source. instead of Power Query Engine being the one that will process those transformations. I know it might sound new to some people, entirely new. I created a YouTube video on it like 3 or 2 days ago. You can go to my YouTube channel, you can watch more on it to understand. It's a 30 minutes video. And I believe that 30 minutes will not be too much for you to learn something new. Some people are complaining that my videos, some of my videos are too long, but there's no problem. All is well. Right? So the heavy lifting, right? The processing, the transformations, right, is being done at database level rather than in Power Query. That is the simple definition of query folding. Let's move on. Now, these are examples of the kind of query steps you apply that fold in your Power Query. And there's an equivalent SQL query to some of the transformations that you do in Power Query. For example, when I filter a particular column, I filter a column and I say maybe I have list of different age in my as a column. I have age 20, age 15, age on each row, right? If I say give me only age 30, I'll just go to that drop down in my Power Query and just click on that select all column and unselect it and just choose that 30 alone. And when I press OK, it's going to only give me the list of rows that only contain 30. Now, the equivalent SQL query of that transformation step in SQL is when you use the where clause in your query. When you say select star from from the table when age is equals to 30, right? It is what the SQL server, it is what is that particular step you took in your Power Query is what the underlying source, that is what it understands, right? So your underlying source actually understands that thing that you are trying to do, that step that you took, right? The underlying source understands it. Yeah, it can process it, right? Now let's look at sometimes when you remember when the first day of the class when we're talking about when we're discussing what's it called, logical model and what's the name of the other one, conceptual model, that we were creating dimension tables from one denormalized table, right? And if you remember vividly, you remember that we used the choose column. We use choose columns, if you remember. Now, when you choose a column, when you choose some columns rather, as part of your apply steps, the equivalent SQL query to that is when you write an SQL query that you particularly specify the columns that you want. For example, I say select name, select age, select year of experience, select I'm the one specifying the exact column that I want my query to bring out. So the equivalent of choose column is when we specifically specify columns that we want to see in our SQL query, right? Now, another example of queries that fold, right, is the order by, right? When we sort, when in Power Query, sometimes we used to sort. You can sort ascending or descending, right? I don't know whether there's custom sorts. Do we have custom sort? Is that custom sort in Power Query?
Sorry, come again, sir. I didn't get that.
Do we have custom sorts in Power Query?
Custom sorts.
Yeah, the way we used to do custom sort in Excel. I'm not sure whether we have that in. I've not used that before.
I'm not sure. I think I've not really. I've not done that before, but
okay.
I think we can explore it. I can check it.
You can explore it. Okay, good. So, the way we used to do ascending and descending sorts, right? The equivalent of that is when you use your order by in your SQL query. So when you do when you apply this kind of transformations, your SQL server can interpret it. It can process it. Instead of the heavy lifting should be on Power Query Engine, the heavy lifting goes back to the database to process, right? So by that, we are optimizing our queries. Now, you know, sometimes we used to rename columns. If, for example, the name of the column is maybe we call the name of the column maybe name, and it's meant to be full name. Just go to your to write your the column, double click it, and you rename it, and you press enter, and it will show as part of the apply step that you rename the column. Now, the equivalent of that is when we call out a column in your SQL query, and you say as. So it doesn't have to be when you do aggregations alone. Maybe you use sum, average, or something in front of that column before you now use before you now rename it. No, you can call out a column and still rename it even in your SQL query. So these are examples of queries that can fold. It means that those transformation steps, those processing of those queries, they can fold back to the source. The source can be the one to process it. Up to this point, is it clear to us at all?
Yes,
sir.
it's clear. It's very
Yes,
clear.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
It is, sir.
It is very clear. Okay, thank you for that. Let me. Oh, sorry. Let's go ahead. Let's look at some other ones. Remember when Isaiah taught us aggregated tables the other day in the last class, that he talked about group by as how you can aggregate your tables in Power Query. That group by is the transformation step, right? And when we do the group by, we will see that apply steps in our apply steps section on your query settings. Now, that group by also has an equivalent. There's a group by in SQL too, if you remember, that Isaiah did that thing that day. For those that went back to watch the video, right? So for the group by you are doing in Power Query, there's an equivalent group by also in your SQL query, right? That the source understands and can process. When you use joins, when you are doing mesh and you use joins, we have different kind of joins. There's the left outer, right outer, left join, all those join, inner join, outer join, this one join, that one join. All those joins that we do in Power Query is equivalent to the same join that we have in SQL's server, right? So they are things that your source can understand and it can process. When we remove duplicates from an entire table, it's the same thing as saying select distinct star from that table, right? Conditional columns, those times that you create conditional columns. You say if customer ID 1 is if the customer ID is equals to 1, it is Shegun. If it is equals to 2, it is Rebecca. If it is equals to 3, it is Nofisat. All those conditional columns that you create, right, is the same as when we do the case when we do case when in SQL, in our SQL queries. So that is queries that fold. Now, you have to be very careful of something, and this part is very tricky. There's a way that we usually know if our queries are folding. There is a way we know. It's when we right click on those apply steps, and you will see that your view native query part, that UI part, is active, is clickable. But there are times that for the fact that that is not active or is not clickable does not mean that your queries are not folding. Don't get it wrong. So whether if that part is active, whether that part is not active, it does not mean that your queries do not. Your queries might be folding, and that UI part might not show. It might not be active. Now, if the native query, so the native query, UI is a conservative indicator. So what does that mean? Whether it is active, whether it is not active, does not mean that query folding might be happening either ways. Now, there are some cases that your view native query might not be active, and your queries are still folding, right? Sometimes Power Query used to combine multiple apply steps as one step. It's doing that for us at the back end, right? And it might not actually show you that it's folding, but in the actual sense, it is folding. So you see that it's a little bit tricky sometimes, right? And there are some steps that you apply that might not have any equivalent SQL query to that apply step, but it might still fold, right? Now, the UI of that native Unity query does not all the time show all operations that are foldable, right? So sometimes it does not show all operations that are foldable. So that's why I said it can be sometimes very tricky, and be careful not to think that maybe your queries are not folding. Is it clear to us, please? Okay, let's go ahead. These are queries that break folding. What you are seeing here are queries that break folding. Sometimes when you apply some custom M code, you use some custom calculations, or you apply very complex formulas in your Power Query, right? Those kind of queries might not fold, right? You know, when we were creating what was it called? Our logical model. And for those dimension tables, we were now creating index column so that they can have primary keys. Thank you.
Yes. Yes.
That thing that we are doing is not foldable. Index column is not foldable. It might be good for data model. See, the Power BI is interwoven. It's good for modeling because it is integer data type, right? And it's a surrogate key. And when you are creating your model and you connect, and integer data type, they take lesser space than text. But for query folding, that apply step is not foldable. It breaks query folding. Although I'm going to show you one trick today on how you can actually enforce that kind of step to still fold. Don't worry, we are going to get there. It's becoming interesting now. Binary operations, right? Binary, when you import files from Excel, CSV, those ones do not even fold. Forget about when it comes to query folding, it's usually immediately databases, SQL, PDF, all those kind of flat file sources. They don't fold, right? Now, sometimes when you do some kind of data type conversion, you do change type. Maybe you change text to document, all those things that you used to change your data types anyhow. It's not all of them that fold, right? Especially when you are when you want to change text to O number. You know, O number is not a data type in SQL. It's called integer, and there's no integer in Power Query. It's not called integer in Power Query. It is O number. So when you change some data types that is not a data type that the source is native to the source, right? It might not fold, right? It's not every time you do on pivot, the one that Nick taught us. It's not every time that you do on pivot that the on pivot folds. So it's not all the time. It depends on the source and the structure of the data. Determines whether that your on pivot apply step is going to fold, right? So sometimes, you know, we used to do Ogbon. We used to do Ogbon, and we will now think that, okay, what if I bring one source from SQL? Since SQL is the one that when we talk about query folding is more in that context. And if I bring one from SQL, you know, SQL Excel, you now bring that source from here and that one from this one, then you now do merge. Maybe you return the column from the Excel to the SQL source, and you now think that you fold, brother and sister, and I know fold because now Excel does not fit the query folding context, right? And SQL is the one that fits it. And you're now doing operations from you're merging from two different sources. One that is in the context of folding, the other one does not align to anything folding. So you now think that it will fold, but you might be surprised that it will not fold, right? Now, these are examples of data sources that allow query folding. There are some that they support full query folding. There are some that partially support, not fully, that partially support query folding. For example, your SQL Server. Your SQL Server, all version of SQL Server support query folding. Azure SQL Database, Azure Synapse Analytics, Oracle DB, MySQL, Postgre, IBM DB2, Teradata, SAP HANA, Amazon Redshift for data engineers, they use that a lot. Snowflake, did you guys use that? Google BigQuery, Azure Database for MySQL, PostgreSQL. These ones support query folding fully, right? They support query folding fully, right? Now, Microsoft Access is to some extent. If you are going to be doing a very complex transformation, it might not fully support query folding. SQLite also has limited support for query folding. Let's move fast. Relational database, as this is like continuation. So cloud data warehousing services also. Data Lake Gen 2, Databricks via SQL endpoints, Amazon Antenna, right? They support full query folding. And there are some data sources, there are some databases that we don't have. Like it's not on the Power Query navigation for you to go. You are using your ODBC to connect to those kind of databases, right? Okay. These are the list of the ones that partially support query folding. We have SharePoint lists, we have Dynamics 365, but it is only for basic operations, so basic transformation. If you are going to, you like doing complex stuff, you're going to be doing show now. You'll be doing, you're applying complex M queries, M code, and you will now see that it's not folding. And we click on refresh. And so now we're doing like this before you can see the updated data. So always have it at back of your mind that it supports all of these ones. They support it partially, not fully, right? Sources that don't support query folding, flat files. I said it before. CSV, Excel, JSON, XML. And you connect to web pages, they don't support. When you have your data sources in folders, they don't support binary files. To support most non-SQL because they are in the first place. No SQL database are non-relational, so they don't support query folding. REST APIs. I have some people that used to get their data through REST API to Power BI, right? So I'm so sorry. It doesn't support query folding. Active Directory. Let's move on to the practical section of today's class. Anybody, any questions so far? Is it interesting to you? Is it boring? Anybody?
It's interesting. Very interesting.
Who said that, please? Peggy. I don't say that your voice. Your voice the DJ. Okay. Any other person? Do you have any questions? Don't be shy. Ask questions, please. Ask questions. Before I understood this topic, hey, Jesus. It took me days for me to process this topic. I'm telling you. Are we saying that it's fine? I can go out with the practical part now.
So does it mean that you have to impute the information on the example, the Postgres SQL? Does it mean that you have to be typing in the informations there other than transporting it from the Power BI or Excel into the SQL?
They confuse me. We talk about BI, Excel, SQL, Postgre.
No,
I don't know where you go exactly.
They support folding. Does it mean that you have to impute the informations that
so you have to bring that data to SQL first, Abby?
Yes. Does it mean you have to bring it or you have to type it? This one
no,
it does
no,
not
no,
support.
No. You don't have to. But what we are discussing what we are discussing here. So it depends. If you want to move it from a flat file to SQL server, it is fine. That's even if you have the authority to do that, depending on the company's data governance policy. Are you getting my point now? But what we are saying here is in the context of anytime you are connecting to SQL server, especially, those sources that support query folding now. Do you understand? That does not mean
Yes.
that all of your data sources must be SQL or it must be Azure database or whatever. No, that's not what we are saying here. What we are saying is that if you are connecting to those ones support query folding. And if you are
Okay.
connecting to those ones, these are the kind of apply steps that you can use that is going to optimize your queries.
Okay. I get
So,
it now, sir.
I would like you to also add something to all of these points based on experience. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry. Good evening, Agagoinga.
Well done, sir.
Yeah. Well, like I said, for me, I've not really used the query folding, or I don't know. Is it possible for you to do more of practical section with us? But I think you mentioned
No,
it that.
I'll do the practical now.
Okay.
I'll do
Yeah,
the
I
practical
think.
now.
Okay, I think I'm looking forward to the practical section.
Okay, thank you. Let's go
All
ahead.
right.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Mr. Abdullah Nko. The man has been doing low key in this class, and he knows a lot.
Why are you putting me out there? Stop doing me like that now.
You have our guy. Yeah.
Don't they do like that?
What's your comment on this topic?
I'm also looking forward to the practical, but from what I can pick from the query folding is basically
Yeah.
doing all those instead of us transforming directly on Power Query, the transformation will have been done from the back end, from the Excel and from the SQL itself. Whether the filtering, the sorting, the aggregation, the grouping, we would have done everything itself. So does that mean that we need to have full understanding of SQL first before we can fold?
Thank you. Before you understand folding, thank you. God bless you.
So I think that's something. So everybody needs to understand that as well. But let's see the practical, please, sir, so that we can.
Okay, thank you.
We are following along. Yes, sir.
Thank you. So I'm going to be doing 2 examples.
Please.
Sorry, someone say something. Okay.
Yeah, I want him to repeat his question, please.
Sorry?
No, I wasn't
Can he
saying
repeat
a
his question?
No, I wasn't saying a question. I was saying that
what you said, Sha.
Okay, what I said was that it seems that we need to have an understanding. For example, if we are querying from an SQL database majorly, right? We need to have understood some of the typical stuff, how to do some certain things in SQL before we then start to query fold. For example, how to filter, how to sort, how to aggregate, how to group, how to join tables, and how to even do calculated columns from SQL side. That's what I was saying, man. I didn't get me.
What he's saying is actually is very correct. He's saying that before we even bring the data to Power Query, if we can do all those transformation steps in the source itself before bringing it even make it even in fact that's the best idea today. I'm telling you, instead of trying to fold it, if we can even do for example, you go to the group by now, you can do the group by right from your query and bring in only database on group by. Mr. Abdullah, thank you for that. That's very nice. Okay, so let me connect to my SQL server now. Let me connect, and I'm going to type in the name of my server, Adeyemo SQL Express. I'm not going to probably pick any database for now. Let me just click on import and click on OK. So it's going to bring me a list of all the databases and tables that are in that server. Okay. And navigation to come up. Isaiah.
Yeah, I'm here.
Please share the attendance list now and close it back in 2 minutes. In 2 minutes.
All right, sir.
Let's have that 2 minutes break now.
Okay, while we're on break, Mr. Gbenga, sir,
sir.
Have we had any session on importing from SQL to Power BI?
No, we've not had that, but we are going to have it soon. Yes.
Okay, okay. So
No,
that
but
this
I think
because
we've
this
had that one. So the last class we had, Desire taught us what's it called? Arbitrary tables. He did that.
okay, okay.
Yeah, but we are still
Okay, no
going to do
problem.
we are going to do SQL in full.
Okay, 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 no problem.
Mm.
So bringing SQL to Power BI. Okay, thank
Yes, we are even doing SQL. We having SQL classes.
you. Okay, sir.
We are having SQL classes.
This, you guys can fill the form now.
The form closes in exactly 2 minutes. Please close back the form. The attendance thing is now very serious. I'm waiting for you guys. Can I go ahead now?
Yes, you can go ahead.
Thank you. So I
Yes,
have my
please.
transactions database, and I want to connect to this sales table here. So I'll click on the sales table, and I'll click on transform. Thank you. Shikina. I'll click on transform, and when I get to my Power Query, you know those queries that said that they can fold. We are going to apply them and see if they can actually fold. We will see. We will see now. So by default, I have the source and the navigation applied step. I have it here. Good. Those ones are there by default, right? Now let's try the first one. Filtering rows. Okay. Let me filter. Let me say it should give me it should return this table. Why is in the refresh now? Let me stop this cancel refresh job. You see what I'm saying? It's not even folding from the source. See the way it's slow. Hey, okay. Okay. So I only want to filter this table down to only some product ID. I'll just come here, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, and just pick some product ID randomly, and I'll click on OK. Now it will return back this table only based on the product key that I selected. The equivalent of this thing that I did now is when I go to my SQL server, and I write it to and I apply the where clause. So let me open my this. So I open my Azure Data Studio now. So this is my Azure Data Studio. Oh, what am I doing? So this is my Azure Data Studio, and I'm going to click on that. Okay, I have it here. I think it's disconnected. I have to connect it back first. So the database is safe. Okay, transactions. So let me. Okay, I think it's connected. It's connected. Okay. So it's the same thing as when I use the where clause, and I say select star from sales where channel key is 1, 2. Let me run this one. And what did you see? It only returned the channel key when the channel key is 1 or 2. So applying filter on your table is the same thing as the where clause in your SQL query. so it can fold. The source understand it can process it, right? Let's go and look at another one. Selecting columns. Thank you for that one. When I go to this place, I say choose columns, and I only choose some columns. I say order ID, order dates. I want cost of sales, quantity. Which one again? I want channel, city, sales, and I press OK. You see that remove other columns is now in my apply steps. Now, the equivalent SQL query of that is when I particularly spell out some columns that I want. Do I have it here? Yeah, I have something like that here. So I'll say select this column, this column, this column from sales, and I run it. You see that it has returned only those 3 columns for me that I selected, that I spelled out in my query. So this kind of queries can fold because the data source, your SQL, understands it and it can process it, right? So let me, there's a way we now know that maybe the query is actually folding. All these are applied step, maybe they are folding. Right click on your step and you will see the view native query UI is active. If I click on it now, what you will see is that it will give me equivalent SQL query to all these my transformations that I'm doing here. It is because the ones that I am applying, they are parts of the queries that can fold. If I go and apply those queries that cannot fold now, you will see that this view native query option will not come out again. Chisom, I see your hands up. Abi Chisom, sorry.
Yes, sir. Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, I could not see the form. That's why I was raising my hands. I can't see the form from my end, so I was unable to.
Which form? Attendance
The
form?
form, yeah, attendance form.
Leave that one, abeg. You go talk to Isaiah after class. We want to be fast.
Okay.
Thank you. You see that the apply steps that you just did now, source, navigation, filtered rules, and remove other columns. You choose column. It has given us the equivalent. It has everything is written as one SQL query. So what query folding means is that if all your apply steps can be written as just one SQL query, then your queries can fold. Do you understand? Then your queries can work. It can fold. Let's go ahead. Let's look at another one, order by. The order by clause. If I sort now and I say, oh yeah, sort this one ascending. Where this one they go? This is sticky. Sort it what? Ascending. From the smallest to the, you see now, 1, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 17. Ascending. Thank you. The equivalent SQL query to that, right, is when you use the order by. I'm looking for that order by. Order by. You see this one? Select star from sales. Order the order ID ascending. And you run. You see that it would. What's taking time to run like this? I'm ordering the order ID ascending. Right? It's taking time. Let me use another column. Here's my Power BI. Let me use the city key. Okay, that's giving me the result. Okay. So order by, so let's start from sales. We are ordering the entire table based on the order by the order ID column. If you order it in an ascending manner. So you look at the order ID now, you see that it's now ascending. If I say descending now, I'll just change it to DESC, descending, and I highlight and I run, right? It will now be from the highest number to the lowest number. That's descending, right? So these are examples of the queries that can fold. So if I still go back now and right click on my sorted rows, you see that I can still see my view native query UI is still active. And I can see the SQL query for all the steps I've applied. Let's now go and do one step that will not apply. Let me change it. Let me try and change this other ID to whole number. You know, there's nothing like whole number in SQL. In SQL query, it is integer that we call it in SQL. When I click on this now, you see that I cannot see my view native query again. Why? Because it's not part of the steps, apply steps, that the underlying source, your native source, understands. That's why the view native query option is not active again, right? Because the source does not understand it. So when it gets to this sorted rows, that is where your query folding will stop. That is where it will end. And from this apply step now, it will stop folding. But you will not know. You just click on refresh, bam. It's not taking time. It's still refreshing. Something that you're only meant to just click on it, bam, max 20 seconds. The whole data should refresh. Right? It's because of query folding. Right? So you can reduce your refresh time if you understand query folding very well. Now, in this kind of situation, what do I do? Benga, what do you do? How can you manage this change type when you change text to whole number and it's not folding? How do you manage that part? I'm now going to show you the second example of how I'm going to do it. I learned this. I said it in my YouTube video. I learned this from Guy in a Queue. It's not my idea and it's not my own innovation. I learned this from Guy in a Queue. And I also read an article from Chris Webb, which I'm going to share the link with after this class, for me to come to this demo. Now, I'm going to delete this connection. I'm going to delete this query. I'm deleting everything. And now, I will now reconnect back to that same source. Let's go ahead. Don't worry, it won't be done. You guys should be coming on time so that we can finish it on time. SQL Server. Right? And I will come again and say adeyemo/SQL Express. Okay? Still the same method. I'm not going to specify in database I want. Just click on OK. There's one thing I saw that really caught my attention. You know, when in my navigator, it brought out that list of all the databases that I have in this server and different tables. Now, you know that normally, if I did not say, you know the other one, I had to select the table before this OK button became active. Right? I had to do, why is this slow like this? I had to select, maybe the Power BI that is even slow. I don't understand. Maybe let me close the Power BI entirely and maybe probably reopen it because it is not normal. Discard.
Okay, sorry, Mr. Genga. So while you are trying to restart your Power BI, so I want to ask, does the query folding, does it work on direct query? Does it work on direct query?
On direct query, yes, it works both on import and direct query.
Okay.
Yeah. But by the time we get to surrogate key and actual key next week, I will still bring in this query folding in. I'll just talk about that part that you mentioned now, the direct query and imports. I'll still bring something in. But guys, we can do more research if we want to know more. Okay, where are we? So I'll click on, which files am I recovering? Okay, I'll click on my SQL server and I'm going to type in my server name. What am I typing? SQL Express, sorry. Some people are like, which one be all this Wahala safe?
That's what I'm saying.
I must I know this query for this. Is it important? Hey, maybe it's even a boring topic. Okay. So, normally, right, if I did not select any table here, you see that this transform and load, they will not pop out for me. But I'm not going to go to this method. And I was now tell you about that thing we did the second class, that what do we call it? Query parameters. I will still talk about that stuff here. So when I will not click on any table here. I will now right click on database name. I'll now transform data from there. Do you understand me, guys? I'm going to, instead of picking, if I don't pick anything here, this load and transform will not be, they are deactivated until I select a particular table in a database. But I'm not selecting any table in any database. I want the database itself to come into my Power Query directly. Right? So I will right click on the database and I will click on transform data. My Power Query will now open. My Power Query will open, and what I will see is different now. Just give some few seconds to come up. Okay. So you are just seeing your source and you are seeing navigation, just like the other ones. But you're not seeing any table yet. You're only seeing your source and you are seeing navigation. Now, I want the sales table, but I do not want to select that sales table in that place. I want to do it in a very tricky way. So I'm not going to click on this FX here. Please, let's be attentive in this part. I'm clicking on the FX button here. And when you will see this apply steps will come out. This custom one. That custom one just leave it the way it is. Now, when you now have the custom one, let me see. Is it possible for me to expand this thing? Oh, this one is not like the formula bar in the Power BI desktop. Okay, but it's not too tiny for your screen. Can you see it very well, guys?
Yes.
It's okay.
I have to zoom
Yeah,
my
I can
screen.
see it.
Well, you
It's
can
clear.
see
You
it.
have to zoom. Sorry about that. I wish I could expand, but I cannot really expand it. So now, if in front of that, now this is transaction. Transaction one is the name of the server. Sorry, the database rather. Sorry for that. That I'm connecting to. So I will now put this. I'll put a space so that I have enough space there. Now I'll come back and now use one mQuery code that is view.native query. Okay, what's the name of this? Okay, value.native query rather. Value.native query, right? I'll open the brackets. It's doing bracket. It's doing open and close. So I would have to. So value.native query open bracket. That's your database, comma, right? You will now put in quotes your select star statement. Select star from sales. Just be watching me. So now this is now specifying to me that I want the sales table alone. I'll close the brackets and I'll press enter. It has given me the table now. What did I do first? After my navigation step, I click on the FX button and it was only showing equals to transaction one, which is the database name. Now, I now want to edit that apply step in the formula bar to say value.native query, open brackets, my server name, my database name, and I'm using the SQL select star from sales. That means give me the sales table, right? Now I can now do my steps now. For example, the other time I went to product key, what did I do? I picked some color, some product key. I didn't pick everything. This one, 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 and I press OK. And I see filtered rows. And when I come here, you don't see that there's not a problem. Even though filtered rows, which the equivalent is when I use the VL clause, it's not even folding. It's not even what? It's not even folding. And this is part of the apply steps that you do that can fold. So what can I do to manage this? I will now go back to my custom one that I said value dot native query open brackets, database name, comma, the select star statement. I will now go back and re-edit it again. And I will now say, comma, after the select star, null, that is, there's no parameter, right? And I will say, I'll use my square bracket and say, enable folding equals to true, right? Then I will now close my bracket. So I only added the comma null, comma, enable inside square brackets, enable folding equals to true, and I press enter. Now I will now go back to that same apply step here that did not fold. I will now see whether it will fold now. You see it now, guys. It has folded because I enabled folding as part of my transformation steps. I've enabled the folding, that the folding must occur. Is it clear to us up to this point, guys?
Now, wow. What do people think read this one? What did they think read this, please?
I don't know. That's what I asked myself too.
Oh God.
So you see now that it's now folding now because I enabled folding equals to true. Nimota lie. Your hand is up.
Yeah, sorry. Good evening. I just want to make some clarification. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, so do you filter before you do your folding, or you like? Let me explain. I think I'm confused.
Did I apply the filter before the folding?
Yes.
No, I went to fold first before I used the filter. I went to enable folding first before I applied the filter. Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
You saw that when I brought in the data using this custom one, all I did was just to say the database and the table I want, which select star from sales. But I noticed that the filter was not now folding. So I now went to enforce the folding to occur. Let's go ahead. This is the last part. Are you clear now, Nimodita? Is there anything that you really want to say?
Yes, it is clear now. I just wanted to.
Okay. We are going somewhere. So let's now say that, you see, I applied my filtered rows. It wasn't folding. I went here to enable folding equals to true, and now the folding is now folding. Now let's now say, and now you know that this one does not fold. If I change text to number, S square is integer. Here is its own number, and I'll come here and say, change this one to whole number now. I don't want it to be text. I know you might be asking me, it should fold now, since these are already enabled folding in custom one, so it should fold. But if I tell you that it will not still fold, it will not what? It will not still fold, though, my brother and sister. So how do I manage this kind of situation? How will I ensure that this my change type from text to whole number is folding? How do I manage it to still fold? I will now still go back to that my custom one. So people will say, who think all these things? I will now go back to my custom one. I'll now still re-edit my custom one. How do I do that? The way I do that is this. I will now use what we call casts. Does anybody know casts? C-A-S-T.
Cast in
Anybody?
SQL.
In SQL, yes.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Yes.
When you want to,
Yeah.
when you want to
Changing
convert to
the
another
data
data type.
Data
Thank
type.
you. God bless you. Thank you. So, sorry. So I will now say, I will now manage this my other ID. I want to manage it. So that it can fold. So I will go back here because it's not folding. So let me remove that apply step. It should go back to what it was, to text. Go back to my custom one. And I will just say, after select, I will just do shift and enter. Shift and enter, just like we used to do in Power BI desktop. I will now first use cast to change my data type of that other ID. I'll say cast, open brackets, my other ID, other underscore ID, as integer, right? I've taken care of that part, and I'll still call it other ID still, right? So I say cast other ID as integer, at least change the other ID before even is. So this query now is part of what I'm using to import the sales data inside, right? So cast other ID as integer as other ID, comma, there are specified other columns that I want. I want the order dates, and what's the next one? I want unit cost. What's the next one after that one? I want price, price, Abby. I want order quantity. What's the next one? I can't see. The thing is blocking me. Cost of sales. I think it's even okay with by now. It's okay, right? From sales and still enable query folding. Then I check it here. It might tell you to just run the native query. So just click on run, right? Oh, it's telling me there's an error somewhere. Where is my error?
You need to remove the hull before the form.
Yes,
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you. The star. So it's from sales now, not all again. Edit. Then I'll run this. Then I'm going to see my table. You now see that this one now, it has changed to what? O number. So there's no need for me to come and start changing it to O number from text. I took care of that by editing this M code. Right from the source, I've already specified that it should change it to integer data type, which is O number in Power Query conversion. So there's no need for me to come and now be applying steps that will not fold. Okay, then let me do this filter again. Because I don't have that column. I don't have that column again. That's why it's bringing error. So let me do it based on other ID now. And now select some other IDs. And press OK. Now it will fold. Any question on query folding, the class don't handle. Any questions so far?
Good evening, sir.
Is that on you?
Yes, sir. It is
Why
I.
your voice can't be like this?
The thing just dey tire me. My
Okay.
question is,
Yeah.
what's the difference between what we just did and at the point of connection, like after putting your server name, when you want to connect to SQL, you put name of this, you now go to advanced options and put this query directly there.
It's the same thing, ma.
That is the same thing, Abi.
The same thing.
Thanking you, sir. Thanks.
Okay. Any contribution from the mentors, the advice of the house? Akiyemi.
Good evening, sir.
Well done, sir.
So I want to ask, like,
Yes, sir.
it means that for one to be able to use this query folding, it means one is expected to be good with writing codes, because it depends on what I
Your
intend
encode does
doing.
not really have to be advanced, because even me, I'm not really an expert in encode. For where I'm not even close to. Do you understand what I'm saying? But
Yes, sir.
you have to understand SQL to some extent.
Okay, sir.
Is that
Thank
clear
you,
to you,
sir.
sir? Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any other person?
So
Okay.
yeah, thank you very much, Mr.
Good evening, Mr.
Emmanuel.
Gwenga.
Okay, hold on, Mr. Abdulaziz. Mr. Abdulaziz.
All right.
I think Abdulaziz can go on because my own is not.
Okay,
So
okay.
Abdulaziz can go on.
Okay, oh yeah.
All right, thank you. So sometimes if I want to get data for Power BI, and let's say, for example, I'm using like BigQuery. So I know we do something like maybe scheduled query where we import data from BigQuery down to Power BI to optimize cost. I think sometimes what people would do is create the query from BigQuery for the Power BI to access. I think that solves the problem of you trying to do query folding here. I don't know. I'm just trying to like know if I'm thinking the right way.
Yeah. If you remember, sir, that Mr. Abdullah Bankole already said it, that it's better to write the queries and connect, use that query in your Power BI while importing the data than having these long apply steps here. You know, he said it right. But there are some times that those queries might not, it might not be, don't let me careful what I'm saying, you know. Should not be saying rubbish. There are some times that maybe depending, maybe you don't even have access to the SQL server to even what do you call it? SSMS, for you to even test the queries. So if you write it out and test it before you copy and paste it in the Power BI, and you just have the data, you can just connect to the data directly, and you have to be the one to now do the transformation here. That's when this query folding thing like steps apply. Do you understand?
Oh, okay.
But the
Yes.
shortcut is
Okay,
you
so
can
I
write
know
it from
that.
this. Continue, sir.
All right. Yeah. So I know that if you want to, you made a comment that query folding is actually done for direct query and import. I know direct query is you the data is not in Power BI. You're connecting directly to a source somewhere. But as for
Let
import,
me confirm that thing
you're
that I
actually
said.
bringing the data to Power BI.
No, please continue.
All right. So, but as for the case of import, you're bringing the data into Power BI. So I'm not sure if I'm trying. Is it that it doesn't matter if the data is on Power BI or from another source, in as much as in as much as the fact that the data is on Power BI just means it's another source for you to do query folding.
I didn't get that last part very well. Can you come again?
Okay, so you said that Power BI query folding can be done with direct query and import. So I said direct query.
Let me quickly correct
the
that.
data, yeah.
Query folding is 100% on imports, but partially direct query too. So we know for direct query, it is the source that will be taking care of your optimization and everything, right?
Yes.
But you know that. Let me ask this question: on direct query, don't we apply steps? Do we not do filter
Sorry,
and
I
everything
did
on
not get
direct
it.
query?
We do,
No, I
but
mean,
it's
do we not do all these filter
We
and all
do.
this on direct query?
we do, but it's
Yes, we do that.
limited.
But it's limited to what we can do, Abby.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so are we going to be seeing the table like this if it is on a direct query mode? Let's
Like, is it?
test. No, I want to
What
know
did
whether
you
one
ask?
will still be seeing it like this, like the way it is like this. The way you
Yeah,
are seeing the table
definitely,
down.
definitely.
You will see it,
You will
Abby.
see it. The only thing you will
Ah.
not see with direct query is that you will not see the table view when you load the data into
When you
Power
get to Power
BI.
BI desktop.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I want to be clear. So that means that we can still apply steps then. Right?
You
Yeah,
can
Yeah,
you will
more
see
limited.
you will see
Yes.
the apply step. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So are we saying that what we can apply is limited to direct query? We can't do filter, we can't do things, we can't do all those things.
No, I think his question is just to understand if query folding can work on direct query. I think that's what he's
Yes,
trying
You know
to.
me, I'm not really a direct query person per se like that. So that's why I was bringing it back with I was trying to ask him back some questions so I could know where to
Yes.
how to answer.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm saying
I
that
just
for
want
direct query,
to
we still see the table like this, Abby, the way we are seeing this one. And we can apply steps, Abby.
Yes, we can.
Yes, but I think
okay.
Manipulation of data directly from the source will be limited because data modeling schema and all those things are involved. So you might be restricted to certain things as compared to
certain things. Okay.
when you have your data directly on Power BI.
Okay.
At
best, so what I will tell you is that from what I read.
I don't think so.
Sorry,
Yeah.
somebody saying something.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't really think
All
so.
right.
I cannot disagree with what Abdulaziz said because the only difference between the direct query and the query fold, and direct query is just like Power BI is taking it back from the source, like it's loading everything to the source, and the import mode is just like another storage engine where Power BI is the one hosting the data. So direct query can still do all this stuff, just that you won't see the table in the table view, except if you create a new table, which I do most times at work. So I think it's the same thing, just that you won't see the table in the table view, but you can still apply most of those steps. You can do it here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So from what I read,
there are some steps you cannot apply in direct query.
Exactly.
You cannot data type in direct. Like you
There are
can
even
only
some
exactly. Like
direct query.
you're directly affecting the data source. So I think some things will be limited. You won't be able to do certain things.
Yes.
But you would have written the SQL script before loading it to your Power BI interface. So why would you want to do other transformation on the Power BI when you've written all the scripts already?
Let me conclude on this discussion. So direct query support query folding, but it does not fully support query folding.
Exactly.
Are you getting my point now? Direct query supports query folding, but not fully. Now, when you are performing basic operations, your sorting, your filtering, all those simple ones, it supports it. But by the time we are doing complex ones, it might not. That's what me I've seen and I've read.
Exactly.
But we can do more research.
You are correct. You are correct. Because even some kind of DAX that you want to write sometimes doesn't really work with direct query.
Direct query. Yeah.
Yes, you are correct.
Exactly. So is that clear to everyone now? Any questions so far?
Yes.
Can I hand the class now?
Mr. Benga, I've been in your DM since last week.
No vex. I did very busy.
No, Allah, sir. I can't ask myself whether I don't offend you.
After the class.
I can't ask myself whether I don't offend you.
No, no. If you don't understand
Alright.
me, you go think say maybe I dey do shakara. I no be like that.
All right, sir. No, Allah. Thank you, sir.
I'm working on a project at work and I'm very busy.